Hey everyone, welcome to another Monday night at Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. If you're seeing the bearded one, then you're at the right place. My name is Tom Springer. I am the host of Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. If you're seeing me, that means at 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain, 5 out Pacific, 2 out in Hawaii, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning in Indonesia, and about 9 a.m. tomorrow morning out in Australia. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the show. I'm not going to waste much time saying hi, all that wonderful stuff, because, I have on a fantastically awesome guest tonight. I've had her on once before, and she is just unbelievable. Every time I get to run into her, every time I go see her, run into her just randomly out in public. A lot of the expos she does, she always has great advice, great information, and she's a ball of fire, so be ready for this. Fair warning, she has been breaking the internet, and I've been breaking the internet, so together we may just break all your internets. Sorry about that ahead of time. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Kelli Miller, so everybody say hello to Kelli Miller. Hi, Kelli. Hi.
Hi.
So, how are you?
Good. Doing good. Ducking and weaving with Mercury retrograde.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
So, other people, you've been on my show before, so thank you. But there are a lot of people now who have not met you. I don't know how, because you're all over the place. But if you would do me a favor and introduce yourself, and as I always ask all of my guests, kind of talk about how you came into what you do, your abilities. Hi, Eric, as he runs off the back. What you do, how you came about it. And you and I kind of talked, and I'd really like you to touch on the very beginning when you kind of knew you had stuff when you were at a young age, but kind of hid it and then brought it back again. So
yeah. So hi, everybody. I am psychic medium Kelli Miller. I have actually retired from doing readings, but now it's my passion to teach. So I love teaching. So a little bit about kind of how this got started for me. So back when I was about 5 years old, my dad and my uncle, well, actually it was a little younger than that, they had moved to Schuyler, and they were going to start a construction business beginning January 1st of that year. Unfortunately, my uncle was killed in a singular car accident. And a couple years back, my dad had said something. We're looking at the obituaries, and I didn't understand what that meant. And I asked him a question, and I said, what is an obituary? And so he showed me the paper and explained it to me, and then said, well, when Uncle Jim died, he had an obituary too. And then he had gone on to say how Uncle Jim died, and I looked at him and I said, well, that's not how it happened. And he said, oh, really? And I said, well, yeah. And so I went into detail and explained to him how exactly the accident happened. And I remember looking at him, and he went sheet white and his mouth was wide open. He goes, how did you know that? And I said, well, because Uncle Jim told me. And he goes, you know what? I believe you, but let's just keep this shit between us. Huh? Let's not tell anybody about this. If anything else like that happens, just come talk to me. So I didn't think anything of it. And so growing up, I didn't know that I was different than anybody else. I didn't notice it. But if anything weird happened, which it did, I would just go to my dad and be like, hey, this happened. But half the time, he was deaf. So half the time when I told him, he's like, that's nice. Like, he didn't hear me anyway. So,
right.
yeah, so eventually I grew up, and then I moved away off to college. And my freshman year in college is when I remember somebody being in my room, and I looked over, and I knew that they were friendly, and I said, "Who are you?" And then I heard audibly in my ear, I heard I heard their name, and then I said, "Well, do you know my name? And they said, Kelly. And then I said, say it again. And I heard Kelly again. And then I thought in my head, well, if you really know me, then you're going to know my middle name. And I heard Kelly Ann, and I'm like, that's it, shut it off. And so at 1920, I shut it down because at the time it became a lot more palpable for me, which I'm finding that a lot with people too. When they move out of the home, it's a lot of times when their stuff really starts to rev up. So eventually I got married and moved, out to Western Nebraska. And I remember laying there after the kids were born. And I said, God, I remember having that ability. Go ahead and turn it back on. I'm an adult. I can handle it. Well, that's when I started to go through my spiritual awakening journey. And that's when it all started. So that, I shut it off for, I don't know, probably a good 15 years. And then when it came back on, it was on full force. And so I started to go through spiritual awakening very, very early on in the game.
Yeah. Obviously,
So,
yeah. Unlike me,
yeah.
who's an old timer that came into the game late.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's just been a lot of instances that have happened since then that I know that this is what I'm supposed to do.
That's pretty cool because yeah, so I fortunately have the hold on, I'm sorry. Apparently people aren't finding me on Facebook right now, even though my site shows that I'm hooked up to Facebook right now. So I'm seeing everyone pop into YouTube. Sorry, Nikki's sending me a message saying, "Hey, by the way," and there's a couple people in the chat saying, "Hey, you're not being found on Facebook right now." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's good. That's just for all my audiences, but that's okay."
Mercury retrograde, of course.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah, Yolanda. Yeah, I know, Yolanda. Thanks. But yeah, so I have the luxury, and I'm going to share it with people right now. I have the luxury of having seen this story because you are nice enough to share the story on your page, which is right below us. Mm-hmm. And you go out there and you do, you go into a very, very in-depth about kind of how you went through this and everything else. And that's important because the first part of the show, I really wanted people to know that this isn't uncommon.
No, it's common.
Yeah, it's more common than uncommon that you find out you have something, or you're experiencing something, or you think you're experiencing something. You're like, no, that I don't think that's right, or I don't want to accept it, or that's coincidence, or something along those lines. And so people just, they kind of shut it off without even trying to shut it off because they don't realize what they have, or they're just like, I don't want to deal with it. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to ignore it. So I think it's important for people to understand that this is not uncommon, what you're describing. I think more people deal with it than even myself. We all know I'm a late bloomer. I didn't start my awakening 2 years ago. But when I was in the military, I had a great sense of knowing when danger was coming. Constantly and consistently, I was right. But I just figured it was just, my, what I would call a gut feeling. But really it had to be me or my spirit guides or somebody saying, hey, danger ahead, buckle down for a couple of minutes and wait for it to pass. And we did. And that's why I'm still here today, because I guarantee if I had not, I would not be talking on the screen right now. So so people have had stuff that happens in the past, I'm sure, all the time, and they just chalk it up to coincidence or whatever else. So, so Nikki is telling me I am not on Facebook. So, and Nikki says hi, by the way.
Hi.
I don't know if you can see the comments or not, but yeah. So
I can.
Okay. But yeah, so Nikki's saying hi. So, unfortunately, I don't know if I click up on the top on my screen right now and I see Facebook is checked. When I go into it, it shows me that I'm good. So I'm trying to figure out why I'm not showing on the screen. Pretty interesting. So
nothing new.
Yeah, like if I just go into Facebook right now and click on it, it tells me we're having trouble playing this video. So yeah, so I'm broken right now, which is pretty funny. So it's very common right now. Kathy's saying, "Oh, there you are." So, and yes, Nikki's blaming it on us always breaking technology and Mercury retrograde. So No, Yolanda,
Yep.
that would be bad to turn it off and turn it back on. I know that's what IT tells us all the time, but no. And I can tell you that today, of all days, um, you're experiencing this as well, because you were telling me earlier that and everybody needs to know who was watching the show and people who will watch the show later. I knew who I was about to have on my show, so I purposely threw up the parental advisor explicit content up at the corner on purpose, because I knew she was coming on my show. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so you were telling me about all the shit that was breaking at work and everything else. So I know it's not just me. So
And I'm not a techie person. Like the girls are looking at me for tech. I'm like, do I look tech? No, no. And every time I went to go touch something, it would either like have to restart or something stupid. And I'm like, that's it. I quit.
yeah, you're like, nope, not playing this game anymore.
No, not today. Mm-mm.
Hi, Stu. What's going on? Stuart found us over from Facebook as well. Yeah, see, so many people. Oh no, I do not have my shungite down here, honey. Good call.
Ah,
I do not have my shungite down here. So, people are slowly moving over from Facebook to here. They're finding us.
they'll
So that's
find it.
yeah. So, but kind of, there's my one squirrel moment of the day already, of our show, which is going to have many, many more, I'm sure.
It will.
But I'm trying to get back to where we were. Because there was a lot of people who, when I posted that you were coming on and what I wanted you kind of introduce, that this is what you're dealing with, this is what you went through, everything else. It's nice to hear it from somebody else besides me, because I can just say, well, I was a little more mature when mine happened. Well, I was a little more older. I can't say mature. A little more older when mine happened. So it was easier for me to experience and kind of accept. And plus, I was actually on an investigation with 2 other psychics and mediums when mine happened. So they kind of were there to say, oh, what the hell just happened? And why did it happen this way? So that was kind of cool. But for those people who are kind of looking into things and checking things out, it's good that they hear it from you that it happened at such a young age. Nikki just brought me all my shungite stuff. So, so it's nice that people get to hear it, that it happens, that it's something that can happen. And it's also important for people who are watching this or who will watch this later, once they figure out, once it actually loads up to Facebook, that when your kids are telling you things, it may very well be that your kid is actually experiencing something. Before we came on here, my neighbor across the street sent me a message, and she was like, "Hey, I have a quick question. My second youngest grandson, or my youngest, one of the two, says that he's talking to Grandpa, and we have his train set up around the bottom of the Christmas tree." And they've only seen each other like once or twice on FaceTime. They've never actually met, but he's holding a conversation with them like he's right here. Is he right here? I'm like, absolutely. I go, especially with the train right there and the holidays. I go, I can tell you, like, we talk about a lot of times the thinnest part of the veil is over October, Halloween and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But for them, it's Christmas. It's this time right now with the train set, the kids there, everybody else. So I said, this is your time where you're going to feel him the most, where the kids are going to feel him the most. I go, let him talk.
Absolutely.
Don't discourage it at all. So
absolutely. And that's true too, especially kids that are between the ages of 2 and 5, especially 3 and 5 in that age group. And it always seems like October, November, December are the when I had the most phone calls of parents going, okay, this ain't right. I'm like, no, actually it's normal and it is right and it's okay. And it's my job to educate people, because people fear what they don't understand. And so it's my job to educate, especially parents, to be like, listen, if they say that they're talking to Grandpa, they're talking to Grandpa. If they say that, they're talking to Bobo, Gigi, woo woo, that's probably one of their spirit guides. But if they're talking to Frank and you don't know Frank, well, then that might be a ghost. Then we got to say. Yeah. So, but almost always they're gonna say, their spirit guides have a weird name, and it's always something playful. That's how you know that it's gonna be somebody for their highest good. And at any point in time, you're always just gonna say a quick prayer over a kiddo too, just saying, if anybody's for their highest good, you can talk to my child, and if not, you're not allowed to.
Right.
So you can absolutely do that.
Yeah. And this is a good segue because I have a question for you. This was brought up. It was something I read from an unknown source to me. It was someone I read online, and it kind of answered a part of a question, I believe, but it didn't answer the full question in my head. And of course, audience members, you're going to have questions. Ask away. That's
Oh yeah.
that's what I'm expecting. But I have a question. So I was reading through. Sorry, I got to go back into my Rolodex here in my head and remember everything that was in there. The lady was talking about how basically we keep coming back to Earth on purpose to keep reliving, kind of learning more, maybe getting rid of generational problems, all that wonderful stuff, and to pass on information. And then once you're basically done coming back, you can basically go on and be a spirit guide for others. Once you're decided you've lived enough lives on Earth and your soul contract is completed its process on Earth and everything else, you can move on to do a spirit guide. Mm-hmm. Now, my question part of that is, I've also heard I've also heard that it's not only humans that can be spirit guides, because there's I know that I particularly, and I think Nikki does too, have one of our star seeds that are our spirit guides. So how does that come about? If it's because us as humans and we live out that cycle, become spirit guides, how does it happen with the star seed or something like that?
So, first of all, we're all of us, whether you're enlightened or not, is part of some star seed. We've all been seeded, if you want to think about it that way. Because if we weren't, we would be Bigfoot right now.
Right.
But understand that, and it's kind of split in hairs, where we do have star seed, like Palladian influences or whatever seed that whatever you associate yourself with.
Right.
So we have spirit guides, we have those star seeds, and we also have guardian angels or angels, and then we have archangels too. So at all times it's a team effort. It's a team effort for
they need it for me.
Yeah.
They definitely need it for me.
Yeah. So it's kind of a team effort if you want to think about it that way. But are there other stellar influences? Yes. Right. When basically when you come to Earth, you have so many cycles. About 26,000 years is a cycle considered on Earth. So as far as a karmic cycle, that you're in reincarnating that many times. And every time you come in, there's a new lesson that you need to learn, basically put, and master. Woohoo. Then you want to go through a spiritual awakening, and then you want to truly ascend. And that's why Jesus came to Earth, to show us what true ascension is. So that is possible. Anyway, if you ascend, then you don't have to reincarnate, at least here on Earth, anymore, because you've understood the polarity law. If you want to think about it that way. So you can then choose to incarnate in other galaxies after that. Whether you choose to incarnate or be a spirit guide for somebody else here on Earth, that's completely up to you. Animals can also have that same weird little pass, I guess. If you love an animal unconditionally and that animal dies, it could come back eventually in another body, so to speak. They've kind of leveled up after we're jetting out of here. So they can kind of take the place a little bit. So, but there's also new kiddos being born. They're called rainbow children, and those kiddos come from two enlightened soulmate parents, and those rainbow children are really lining up right now. There's about, for every one child being born, there's about 3,000 waiting to come in. So, and these kids haven't had previous lives. They are absolutely fearless. They have big eyes, and they're here to unify everything. My generation, the Gen X, is here to destroy it, and the generation that my children are here to rebuild it creatively. And then those kids are coming in to help us remember peace, love, harmony. So
yeah, that's really cool. Primal is stating that she had a psychic artist draw her son's spirit guide, and she drew a galactic being. First time for her. First time for her. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. and that's actually really, because like, I don't expect us to have necessarily galactic beings as spirit guides, but the younger generation, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that they're here to do bigger or better things, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So they just need a little bit more guidance, probably spiritually speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Jeanette. Yeah, we know I'm broken on Facebook. Facebook has, when I click into it, it says that the link's just not working right now. I think Facebook is broken. So I blame us, but what the heck?
That's right.
Yeah.
Blame Facebook. Yeah.
But yes, and because I was trying to explain when that person made that comment, they kind of asked, "What are your thoughts?" And I was kind of explaining, well, I know that my basically my soul location, my soul birthplace was Lyman. I was Lyman, and stuff like that. So I was trying to explain, well, I have a spirit guide who is actually an Arcturian, and I do have two other human spirit guides, as well as my angels. And I was trying to explain to that. And then the other part I had to wrap my head around was, so I do a lot with elementals, but one of my past connections has an elemental as a spirit guide, which is very interesting to me because I don't resonate elementals. Elementals to me are more environmental. They're not really, so it's different for me to see. And I can see, and it kind of frustrated her because she knew she had a fire elemental as a spirit guide, and I can see the elemental. So I was watching her fire elemental walk with us, and I was describing it to her. She was mad. But it was very hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that elementals could be spirit guides. And I'm trying to figure out why, when the greater purpose for a spirit guide to be here is to take care of their element that they work in. So when I step in as a spirit guide, because like an earth elemental is here to protect the earth. They're here to make sure the earth is healthy and everything else. And the water elementals are here to keep the waters clean and safe and healthy. So for a fire elemental to step in and go, well, I'm going to be your spirit guide, I was kind of like, that's different. I haven't seen that one before. So yeah, that one kind of took me back. And I just, of course, at the time I wasn't thinking to go, hey, by the way, why are you a spirit guide?
Yeah. And if you're dealing, so I know a lot of paranormal investigators, a lot of them have elementals. I've seen a lot of them that have elementals, and maybe it's a protection thing. I think, again, they're here to guide you. So I'm sure they're going to either guide you away from something or towards something, depending on what needs to happen. So
true. Yeah.
It's no different than sometimes I see people that have like monks or nuns for guides as well. So it kind of, it depends on their purpose. I think it really boils down to that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have a lot of different guides. Trust me, I need them. But my greatest guide is my animal guide. Is my animal spirit. That is my greatest guide that I have. And it's amazing how much that spirit animal leads me and guides me more than the voices I hear from my spirit guide or anything else. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, so see, and that's Nikki chiming in. Well, Tom's elemental needs to steer him away from some things sometimes. Yes, because I'm too dumb to know any better. So I'm the one who just goes into places and charges in, and too stupid to be fearful. Yeah.
And I have a Native American spirit guide and I'll tell you what, when he shows up, I've learned just to shut up and listen, because I don't like to be told what to do. So if my spirit guide's like, you need to, I'm like, the hell I don't.
You're like,
so, but anymore when it's him, I'm like, okay, because he's saved my butt a couple times.
Yeah.
So I was, driving back home late at night, and he's like, you need to slow down coming over this hill. And I'm like, okay, I slow down and there's horses in my lane. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like he's kind of, but it's funny. He'll show up sometimes oddly. And if he shows up in those odd moments, then I know that either what I'm investigating, whether that's paranormal research or whatever, there has to be something native, because he wouldn't show up if I'm not dealing with something native.
Right. Yeah. That's cool.
So it depends on time and place when my guides show up. And, there's oftentimes that I when I do live audience readings, I have this other purple magenta looking being, and every time I try to talk to it, and I can say it because I don't know what it is.
Right.
Every time I try to look at it, it's like, nope, do your job. And I'm like, well, and they're like, nope, do your job. And I've seen it with Rebecca Rosen as well. She has one too.
Oh, okay.
So, and we think it's some sort of like regulator maybe that just kind of regulates the energy, because when I'm on stage, it truly does feel like I could float. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty high vibe up there. So we're
Yeah.
guessing that.
Yeah. So Yolanda makes a statement and Stuart makes a question about the statement. So I want you to look at both of these. So Yolanda states, I believe I had a great day today. I saw a little white feather, a penny, and 888, 666, and triple fours. And Stuart says, okay, Rosie, I know the feather and the penny, but the numbers with the question mark. So explain to people how numbers.
Yes.
So
So when you first begin to go through a spiritual awakening, you're going to see your birth date quite often, or you're going to see 1111. And that's just Spirit's way of saying, hey, you're plugged in, toots. Now, if you're seeing a lot of replicating numbers in one day, that's signifying that you're vibrating at a really high energy level. And those are the days you're like, all right, God, this is what I need. So, because you're vibing at a high energy level, that you're really going to be able to manifest quickly on those days. But individually, twos usually mean balance or keep focused on what you want. Threes are almost always that Spirit is here to help you. Ask for what it is that you need. Fours are usually angelic related or earth related. Like think about like 4-H, it's always earthy. Fives are all about change or transition, but please understand that doesn't mean it's bad change. Could be
Right.
good change. Sixes almost always are about money. You're focused too much on the lack of money and not money coming in. So sevens are almost always a good pat on the back. You did a good job. You responded or reacted or thought differently about a problem. Eights are all about abundance or money. Nines are kind of the end of a cycle. And seeing the zeros as the end of a big cycle. And a lot of times you're going to see like 311, 911, 611. So you're just going to take those numbers and kind of the ones just basically amplify that number if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah. Nikki wants to know, does it work? Do numbers still work when you're seeing them like in a pattern, like on time? Like every time she looks, it's always like 101, 202, 303 on the clocks. It's always like she's always catching it perfectly 1 hour, 1 minute ahead of time.
Yeah. And so I would say like the 303 is the same thing as 333. To me, it pretty much means the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because we know that my pattern, it doesn't even have to be on the clock or anything else, but my pattern, it's always the same 4 numbers. They may run at different patterns, but it's always the same numbers. I always have 1, 2, 3, 4. It can be 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 3, but there's always those same 4 that run together. And Nikki has commented on, she's like, oh my goodness, how many times have you seen that? Because I see it all the time. And it's always those 4 numbers that run together somehow or another. So, and I always think about the fact that if you add them all up, they add up to 10.
Yeah. So they should have to 1. Yeah.
Yeah, they give me a 1. Yep, they give me a 1. So, but it's always those 4. Like it's not really 2, 3, 4, 5 or 0, 1, 2, 3. It's always 1, 2, 3, 4. It's always those patterns. So they always add up to a 1.
Yeah.
So and then Patty just followed on with the same thing. Stuart, those are angel number signs and synchronicities to be aware of. In fact, you actually recommend a book called Angel Numbers.
Yes. And right now, I don't even have it in stock because both of my 2 book dealers are out of that book because they got sold out quick. So we're still waiting to get more in and Awakening. So, but yeah, that Kyle Gray Angel Numbers book, fabulous.
Yeah. So Nikki is asking if I'm spinning for anybody else. So she's saying that I'm frozen. But you and I seem to have a conversation just fine. So I'm wondering if she's frozen. Up on her end, on her computer upstairs, because it's funny because she'll sit in the house just for this reason on a totally different room to watch the show, to make sure that the internet's not breaking for me. And now she says, "Yep, I got you back." So yeah, Nikki, that was you because Kelly and I were talking just fine. So, but yeah, because so I kind of wanted to touch on your page for a little bit, if you don't mind. Again, I'm going to throw this up really quick. So if you actually go out, for those people that are wandering around and coming in late or just joining us, right there, psychickelly.com. This is Kelli Miller, by the way, if you haven't met her, she's right there. But psychickelly.com. And she actually has this site, and she explains how basically she has how she started, what she does, a lot of other things. But she's talking about how she's really turning to more help you in a world. I mean, just kind of an overall sense of everything. And in it, you actually, so under your blog, which happens to be where I'm at right now. Well, I was. Now it stopped there. Now mine's spinning real slow. But you talk about things like benefits of sage, and then you talk about all the different clairs. Yep. You touch on each one of them a little bit, which is good because I'm terrible about remembering what the clairs are. But I realize I am very, very, very much claircognizant. And then you have more. So like, you talk about the readings, you talk about the events you're doing, you talk about the academy, which is huge.
Yeah.
And then how to contact you. And then you also have your crystals and supplies because you also own a store called Awakenings. Mm-hmm. So if anyone is at a location to where, if anyone is at the location to where you have an Awakening store, that's a franchise off of Kelli Miller's Awakening store. Just so you're aware. Yeah. I don't know how many people know that it's not just one store in Omaha, but there's 5 or 6 now.
Yeah. Yeah. We own the one in Lincoln too. So we own the Lincoln and the Omaha one. Norfolk will be opening up here at the end of January. Then Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Phoenix, Arizona as well.
Yeah. So it's, yeah. So just if anyone's in those areas and you go to Awakening store, know that they are the legit type of store because Kelli and Eric are OCD fanatic about what goes into their stores and stuff like. I don't know a better way to put that.
Well, yeah, I want to make sure that like a lot of people don't realize that it's easy to sell fake crystals. It's so easy, and we're not about that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry, again, squirrel moment, but I want people to know because I know there's people out there just wandering and kind of like I do. But so now right now I'm in your academy. Mm-hmm. And it literally is a place where people can go and you actually start off with areas of study, the Great Awakening. So this is where you start off your adventure and start checking it out and saying, hey, what am I feeling? What is this weird thing that's going on with me? Everything else. Then you kind of step all the way down to a bunch of different things. And it just continues to carry on. I mean, there's 9 different things on here. And so your page is broken down to help basically everybody and anybody who is looking for information, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And Enlightenment Academy, the first phase of it is by the time you get done with EA1, you will know if you're a psychic, medium, healer, or channeler. And you'll also know what clair you hold really well and which one you have and the second best one and which one you kind of need to work on. So that's why I like to keep that class small in particular, just because I want people to get individual attention. And EA2, the next phase of that is more mediumship, like how to be able to look at somebody and know that they have a stroke indicator and why they have that stroke indicator. It's because they're internal worriers and what that looks like and how to be able to see health indicators on people. And really dive deep more into that mediumship, like how to turn it on, turn it off, how to be able to handle what to say, what not to say. Morals, ethics, all that stuff. And then EA3, the final phase is how to turn this into a business. Because I don't think a lot of people understand that if they want to leave the corporate world behind, then you got to talk about turning this into a business, not a hobby. There's a difference in that. There's a difference in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's where, so I'm going to share some personal information because, I do that. And that's where my struggle lies because I really love my job right now. That I do for the military, but I really know that somewhere down the road, I'm supposed to be working in this type of field. I just feel it gut deep that this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. Now, what I'm supposed to be doing in the field, I don't know yet. But I do know that I'm supposed to be working in this field somewhere. And I know that a lot of people will have that same anticipation, hey, this is something that I want to go from a hobby to a lifestyle, and trusting yourself enough to take that leap of faith is huge.
It is.
And it's because it's a life-changing experience. It's talking about, you're talking about uprooting, giving up your job. That's your livelihood. That's your financial stability. That's all this wonderful stuff. To go into a different type of adventure to where there's uncertainty. Excuse me, I don't know why I have so much hiccups tonight, but uncertainty and just questions about what is this right for me? I know in the beginning I said this is great, but all of a sudden I'm 3 months into it and I'm really not making money. And how am I supposed to keep supporting myself? And so I know there's hesitations for that as well. For me, I just know that I'm old, and by the time I get to it, I'll probably be retired anyways. But yes, so I very much commend you for you and Eric doing that, because I know that's what you guys did basically. Both of you had other jobs, very nice paying jobs and stuff like that, and you both went, nope, this is what we're doing. We're going to take this leap of faith because I feel that this is the way my life is supposed to be going. And you both did that.
It was easy. All the signs were there. It was really easy. And we just, it's kind of like Eric and I, we see the signs, we're in, we don't question it, but we also don't have a plan B. There is no plan B. Plan A is going to work. Plan A always works. There is no plan B. We don't do the what ifs. We don't do what if this. No, we don't play what if.
Yeah.
We just don't. And because it just takes away time, energy, and effort from plan A.
Yeah,
so we don't.
Yeah, so I want people to understand that it can be a lifestyle. It doesn't have to be.
Absolutely.
Because I don't even really consider mine a hobby, but I'm not a full-time with the lifestyle. I'm not a hobbyist. Am I comfortable enough to give people readings sitting at a table as a vendor? No. But when someone asks me for information, or something about a loved one or something else, do I get instant notification basically from my spirit guide? Abso-freaking-lutely I do, which is kind of interesting, kind of fun, because that's when the skeptics kind of go, wait a minute. In fact, today I'm going to share this with you at work. There's a lady who's here right now, and she was over in Africa working at one of the commands over there for the military. And she used to work in my office, and she's back right now. And she's like, there's a girl that was here taking your class, and she challenged you, and you gave her a reading on the spot in front of everybody. And you were so spot on that she was just shocked. She still talks about it. She goes, how long ago was this? I go, about 2 years ago. I go basically right when I started. And she's like, she was amazed. And she still talks about you. She goes, if there's other people going to your base to take your class, she tells them about me. Like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of get back to some of the things on the comments, because so first one is, do you do classes over Zoom?
Yes, I only allow 5 what I call Zoomies, just because I want everybody to have individual attention. I've taught Enlightenment Academy so far in France, New Zealand, and 2 in Germany, 1 in India. So, yeah.
So kind of everywhere. But yeah. See, I knew that because I read. See, I actually read your stuff. So,
yep.
Yolanda is, Nikki asked you a question, but Yolanda was way earlier than you. Yolanda was asking, does a red orb mean anything instead of a white orb?
Not necessarily bad, but a lot of times they're a little bit more, those spirits are usually a little bit more aggressive or more ornery.
Yeah.
More ornery.
Yeah.
So.
And a discussion.
Not necessarily bad.
Yeah, a discussion I always have now, because it comes up every single time, is the difference between an orb. What is an actual orb compared to everything else you can possibly think and want it to be an orb? And I work with Bill Slevin, and he is a big time non-orb person. He knows they're out there, but he goes, I've only seen like 2 in my entire. So yeah, he goes, they're very, very, very rare.
I used to do ghost tours, and I would tell people, do not show me orbs because it's dust. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, I don't buy orbs. I know, I think it's just because people have hope and
Right.
they want that thing captured. I'm like, show me a full bodied ghost. I'm like, then we could
Then we
talk.
have then we have conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
a lot of times it's dust or a refraction, especially the green ones. It's a refraction off the camera lens.
yeah.
So, and I hate telling people, sorry, but that's not spirit. And they're like, but it is. I'm like, whatever. Just go ahead
Yeah.
and think that. It's fine.
I even
So,
did that today. I someone posted, "Hey, look at my 3 videos." And I'm like, "That's dust." And someone's like, "Oh, that's one of your loved ones. I can tell." And I'm like, "That's still dust." So unless one of your loved ones came from a dust storm,
well,
we have issues.
I don't like that because for me, that's false hope. I don't like that. Like
It
it
is.
is.
Yeah,
It sucks because as
absolutely.
a medium, that's like mediocre. That's not even mediocre. That's like bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you. If and 99.999% of the stuff I see are bugs, dust, whatever else, So,
Yeah.
and I think Yolanda's saying that I'm supposed to be either doing a podcaster or a medium. So, um,
Both.
kind of what I'm doing right now. So, Nikki, now I'm getting Nikki's question. Nikki asked, question you can ask at some point. Kelly, I have had my left upper eyelid twitch off and on all day, every day for about 2 months. Can this be spiritual or something else? Yeah, it just goes crazy. It just twitches like.
So, two things. One, it could be mineral deficiency.
Yeah, that's what Stuart said. He just said deficiency in calcium, potassium, or magnesium.
I was gonna say take an Epsom salt bath. Number two, do you guys have kids?
I do. She does not. Well, so we have 2 spiritual kids, but not living. So.
Okay, so well, is she worried about the kids, or is she stressed out over the kids or animals? It would, because usually the left eye has to do with motherhood or being a mother. So I'm gonna be like stressed out over animals, stressed out over kids of some sort. It's a
Well,
stressor.
so
And
she is a teacher.
there it is.
I would
Never
say
mind. There it is. Right there it is. It's kids. It has to do with kids and her being that motherly figure or that authoritative figure, and they're not listening. So she's like,
and she's an empath. So
oh yeah.
So her room is loaded with crystals.
Oh yeah. That has everything to do with the kids. And you aren't it's hard for you to self-reflect about you and who and how do I explain this one? She doesn't see herself as the unconditional love that she is throwing out there. She sees herself
Yeah.
as a teacher, and I'm just a teacher. I'm like, no, 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 no. The naughty students are going to be in your class because you emit the most unconditional love, and those kids need it.
And that's funny you say that because she has students come to her that are terrors, fucking terrors for all the other teachers except for her.
Except her. Yeah. And they will tell their deepest, darkest secrets to her.
Yeah. And she has other students that aren't her students, but they'll come to her for help.
They will.
Yeah.
She's quite literally the mama hen of the entire grade level. And she doesn't see that. She doesn't see her as being the unconditional love that these kids truly, truly need. I mean, just by a touch or giving them a hug, she really can influence them big time.
Yeah, that's what she says. That is true. I always have the worst kids in my room who love me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen it because I go there every once in a while, just either take her lunch, or I used to be a business mentor in the school, and I'll see the kids come in, and deal with her. So so that's good, Nikki. There's your answer right there.
Yeah.
Stuart wants to know, is there information about your academy on your website?
Absolutely. Yep, it's on the website.
There's actually a so if you look at the main page, Stuart, on the very top, where the radio buttons are, the first one on the right side says Academy. So you can click on that, and it opens up everything for you.
And I think I have 3 spots left for I think it's the first week in January, the first weekend in January. I got 3 spots left.
Yep. January 5th to the 7th. So.
Perfect.
Yeah. I do want to say hi to a Zhang first, because the Zhang's is the one who watches us from Indonesia. But if you look, she's on Facebook, so Facebook must be working now.
Hey.
So Facebook must be, unless it's just working in Indonesia, not in our area. But yeah, so And then, so of course, Stuart is not wrong. She has the large kid that stresses her, which is me. Yes.
There it is. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's it right there. It just took so many years for her eye to start twitching from me. But yeah, so you also do you still do your I believe you do. Do you still do your morning? So share that with people, because Nikki and I actually recommend you to most everybody we talk to, because it's just a daily. Here's what I'm going to talk about today type of thing. No bullshit, just straight up blah.
Yep.
And you do that every morning, and it's fantastic to watch.
Yep.
So share that with others, so if they're interested, so they
Yeah.
can
So every day on Facebook, and I usually post it on Facebook, Instagram, and then lately I've been doing it on Twitter, Threads, LinkedIn, all the other social media platforms. But every morning I wake up and I'm like, wonder what today is going to be like. And I actually watch my kid and I pay attention to my animals, because if my animals are quite literally on my ass that day, well, obviously something's going on. We had a shift of energy or something's going on. So I always kind of keep an eye out on what's kind of like how I'm feeling, because I'm more sensitive, but also what's going on astrologically, numerology, or universally, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. I know that just a couple days back we had a massive solar flare. It was a class X. It was the I think the biggest one that we've had since 2017, and
217, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and that one knocked me on my butt for 2 days. I could not hardly move. That one really hit me hard, where I knew that if I was discombobulated and you were either sleeping 4 hours or 12.
Yeah.
So depending on what was going on. So that took me until actually yesterday to kind of get out of it. So today's the first day I actually feel somewhat normal again. But I know that I'm more sensitive, but I know that people that are also enlightened or awakened are also having that same problem. So every day in the morning, I'll sit down, have my cup of coffee, and just do a daily reading, and just kind of let people know, hey, if you feel like today, if you feel stuck in neutral and you don't really know where to go next, that's okay. I'm like, that's kind of where you need to be right now. It's like we're still shutting doors from the past so we can begin to move forward here, quite literally on the 1st, which is when Mercury retrograde ends.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I did that every day just to kind of give people a heads up and be like, hey, listen, if you feel this way, this is why. And maybe it's because of a solar flare. Maybe it's just because of, something went retrograde or went direct or something. But it really does affect you, I think, more than what people understand, especially women. A lot of women don't realize that they'll start syncing up with the moon, because the moon is every 28 days and a girl's cycle is every 28 days. And so you'll notice that we'll start syncing up with the moon a lot more.
Nikki started noticing that a lot lately, with that.
Yeah.
So Nikki says, people, if you like to watch videos on YouTube or anywhere else, Kelli has amazing information and great videos. Hi, Janet. How are you? And then Nikki does say, yeah, we feel you. Last Thursday, she slept 4 hours. Then Saturday, she slept 10 hours. Yeah. And I will tell you that I am still feeling the effects of it, because today I am just dragging ass.
Yeah, that was me yesterday.
I got home today, and I knew I got home a little later than normal, so I was at work for about 10 hours, which is fine. But I got home, and normally I just start getting this ready, starting to prepare for dinner, everything else. And I just stopped and said, I got to lay down for 10 minutes. And I just laid down on the bed, fell asleep for like 10, 15 minutes. And I was just like, nope, just crawling today. So
yeah, and it doesn't help that that damn flu season is around too. So even if anybody's remotely stressed out, they're going to get sick. So, But that solar flare knocked everybody on their butt a little bit. The unenlightened ones were just, they react by being Karens.
Yeah.
That's how they react.
Yep. Kathy says, thanks to Kelli, my house is so clean. Her daily advice is to clear the house. Mm-hmm. So
messy house is messy mind.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then Yolanda is saying, speaking of a solar flare, how can the prediction be from 2025, or is it just shit?
Uh, so I'm not going to believe a whole lot here. And here's the reason why is because time is going more quantum. And so what somebody even from the future can come back and say, oh, this is going to happen, it might not. So the timelines are getting more spread out to
Yeah.
where it's getting harder to predict. So, but next year is a year of 8, which is all about money and finances. So I do think there will be a massive change with the banking industry next year. And if I even had to guess a date, it's probably going to be probably August, September, if I had to pick a time period. So I think they're probably going to go more digital and try to get rid of the cash.
Do you
So
also think that it may have to, and this was my thought process, because it's funny you say that, because I had a sense about money as well, finances, which is weird because I don't know numbers at all. But my thought process was IRS, the taxes. The taxes may be adjusted one way or the other, whether it's state or federal. I get the feeling that next year is going to be a big adjustment on those as well.
yeah,
So
I think there's going to be a lot of things happening financially speaking, whether that's with the banks or anything else. And, you know, like I said, I don't pay attention to politics much. I don't like to, but
yeah,
at the same time, I'm like, we're going to have to start coming together and changing things as a community, as the way that we want it to be run. And that's going to be, and of course, next year is an election year to top it all
of
off.
course it is.
So
Why not?
fun. So let's just add some more crap to the mix. So I
Right?
expect next year to be pretty, they're going to really try to split and divide us, and we're going to have to kind of come together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that'll be interesting next year. I think we're about to hit I think we're going to hit a big patch of bad before it turns to good next year.
and those are called growing pains for a reason, aren't they?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Primal asked this question a while ago. I'm going to go back up to it because it's kind of geared towards me. But she says, can you remotely clear the land? There seems to be something around our well. We live in an area where many natives lost their lives in the past and may feel stuck here. So, Primal, yes, I can. The short answer is yes. We can talk offline for this, but yes, I can. Because as we're talking, I'm already seeing it, so I know I know what's happening right now. You're right as far as the natives losing their land, losing their lives there. That is what's doing it. I can help clear that. It's not hard to do. It's just going to be a little time consuming for me, but not overwhelming at all. And I should be able to help you out without a problem. So there you go. So,
and Tom, I would plant a fruit tree of some sort to give back to the land.
I would do a fruit tree, and I would also do tobacco.
Bingo.
Yep. That's going to be a big one, as a tobacco offering.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say the tobacco offering, and then some kind of plant or some kind of life to put back into it to help.
Yep. It's so funny. In my drawer over here behind my TV, I have a whole thing of tobacco for that reason. I've got sage tobacco, holy water. I'm the weirdo that carries it all, but I'm like, you never know. I mean, I'm in Nebraska. It's like
Yeah.
you kind of need to carry that stuff. We are a native land, so.
Well, and it's funny because where I learned about the tobacco from was not from a native area, but it was literally from talking to the earth elementals. Because when you come up against an earth elemental and they are angry, or they're hyper anxious, whatever else, the best way to calm them is to give them an offering.
Absolutely.
Put down wheat, put down rice. One of our friends planted impatiens outside of the window, so they could see the color and they can see the life outside of the window and stuff like that. So something along those eyes. So see, she says she grows tobacco, so perfect.
I have a funny that right now I'm getting a lot of phone calls around the Boys Town area where they're kind of rebuilding that area.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the housing, the people that have been living there for a while are all experiencing water issues hardcore. And those elementals are not happy that they are they're doing that. So a lot of the people around that Boys Town area are all having major, massive water issues because that elemental there is not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. What's funny because we'll swim, like we live on a lake here now, and we'll sit out in the water and I can feel the elementals come around us. And that's what taps me. I realized because I kept telling Nikki, I go, man, I go, something's tapping me under the water. And I was like, but it never bothers her. And I started thinking about it. And all of a sudden they started talking to me like, that's us. That's us. And I'm like, oh, because I get tapped all the time underwater. And then,
not allowed to touch me. No, you don't. You could talk to me. I could see you. Don't touch me.
and I'm okay with it because the elementals to me are, I mean, we are so basically copacetic.
That it would be for you, yeah. But for me, when I see them, they always are like, and they do this peaky thing. I'm like, would you just show up? Like, what do you need? And they're like, oh, sorry. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, go away.
And to me, they're like, here I am.
Yeah. They peak for me. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been at locations at work, around the house, when I was in Hawaii with a couple of people that watch on here and everything else. In fact, Uilani was there. She popped in, she says hi. So there she is, Uilani Ku'ule. So, but she was with one of them, and I was like basically calling out where the wind was coming from, and all of a sudden it's still, and all of a sudden the trees would start to move, and I'm like, there they are, and so yeah, it's pretty nice to be able to see them and know when they're about to react to stuff, and kind of like my own little parlor trick.
It's fun.
And Yolana's saying, do the elementals from the water make the fish swim in circles? Sometimes, but a lot of times that's due to either current or to temperature of the water. But if you see them and it's kind of an odd pattern of swimming, it could be because the elemental is pushing them a different direction through the water for a reason, to try to help them avoid danger, or there's something that the elemental doesn't want them dealing with at that point in the water. So they will actually do their own little Aquaman thing and push the fish around in different directions. So yeah. So yeah, and yeah, I don't know if you saw my eyes light up, but I was like, oh, but I don't think Nikki wants me to talk this because you used the word quantum and I got all excited. Because I'm the nerd part. That's the nerd part of me going, oh, my subjects. And so yeah. And my audience knows it. They're like, oh God, here we go. But yeah, and that's kind of what I was feeling towards the future, is that it's more undecided now than it has been before.
Yes. It's always been easy. It's always been really easy for most of us to be able to look forward and go, oh yeah, we know that's going to happen.
Right.
And it's like that is getting shortened up for us. It's almost like, wow, I can really see only about a month ahead. Like, what the hell? Like, Yeah. Normally I could see a year ahead. Now it's like I can get maybe a month or a couple weeks, and it seems like that's getting shorter because there's going to be a big split between 3D and 5D. It's already occurring, but there's going to be a bigger split, and that's part of it too. So
yeah. Hey Jess, what's going on, brother? Yeah, and that was, so the next thing I'll let you know, the next thing I'm working on, well, kind of working on it, because I do it naturally, is I can see a small step into the future, like immediate, like instantaneous. I'm like, oh, I know what's about to happen. Well, now I'm working on expanding it out, and I'm also working on altering my section of it. Good. In a small way, shape, or form. So it's been a little difficult to do because I'm not sure what I'm doing, and I'm afraid I'm just going to break the universe if I do it.
Because you're only going to see it from your perspective. You're only going to see, you create your reality. So you're going to be able to see it how you choose to. And that's what I have to keep reminding people of, like, turn off the TV. It's nothing but fear-based crap. Like, you create your own reality. What do you want to see to happen? I'm like, we don't want to see a bunch of fear. We want to see some good stuff.
Right. Exactly. Oh, hi, Sarah. Welcome to the show. I follow Sarah a lot too. So, Kathy wants to know, will this split be public knowledge or hidden by the government?
It won't be public knowledge. And you got to remember, the government is not they're going to try to squash and try to divide us as much as possible. And their best way of doing that is going to be through fear.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff out right now that the government has out there as a fear factor that we are way over worried about, that is just made up by them, or it may not be made up by them, but it is overblown by them immensely.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of these people like to have side conversations with me because I do work for the government. So a lot of people are like, how much do you know? My own wife, how much do you know? And I'm like, I can't tell you.
Enough to get in trouble.
Right. So it drives her nuts. So I'm like, and she'll ask me like, what do you know about Area 51? I'm like, oh, I can't talk about that. She's like, but why not? And I'm like, just because I can't. She's like, so you know. And I'm like, I can't tell you.
Right.
It drives her nuts.
But I find it ironic how everybody's always focused on Area 51. I'm like, you do know that there's multiple.
Oh,
there's
my
not
goodness.
just one. There's multiple.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't understand. So this is public knowledge for people who don't pay attention to it. So I'm not giving away secrets, but Area 52 alone is much more massive and has much more stuff that has happened at 52 than there was at 51. So we'll go that.
Yeah. But I'm like, everybody's always focused on Area 51. I'm like, oh no, there's a lot more areas.
Yep. Everyone questions. And for those people who even want to know even more, I can give you more public information that you probably don't know about. Area 52 is in Ohio. So in the middle of, right smack dab in the middle of the country.
Right in the center of the state.
Yep. Yeah. So there's that too. But yeah, so when you see, Sarah's like, this is a first. But when you are, again, so many squirrel moments. Sarah, you're walking into a squirrel moment heaven right now. Yeah, Kathy, by you, Ohio. Yep. When you decided to give up like personal psychic reading, can I ask why that was? Was it because you're going to reach more of the general public for the greater good of the academy, and you want to do more like a life thing rather than just focusing on a psychic thing?
There was actually, it was kind of about 3 or 4 different reasons. One, I noticed that my logical thinking was going away quickly. It got to a point to where even the basic everyday functions I was struggling with, and I shouldn't have been. And it's kind of what they always said in grade school: if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, my logical stuff was starting to go by the wayside because all I did was readings. I did, even at my household, Eric does all the finances, so I don't have to do anything necessarily logical. And so I needed to start using my other side of the brain. Number 2, I felt like I was a glorified counselor more than I was a medium or a psychic. And so I was really helping people more with their personal issues, as far as especially how they were being raised, versus doing the mediumship. And number 3, I just got tired of that schedule, and my passion turned into teaching. So, because I was doing individual readings, like I said, for 10 years, and I was doing 6 readings a day, about 4 days a week. Let alone teaching in the afternoon and also doing live audience readings on the weekend. I got tired. So, and I don't get tired with teaching.
Yeah.
So, and there's not a lot, in my opinion, there's not a lot of good teachers out there that can make it not so woo-woo to where it's very difficult to understand. And I've met other people that I looked up to in this business, and when I met them, I was sorely disappointed because they were all about ego, flash, and money, and not about truly helping people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And Sarah's saying I can see that happening all too well. So yeah, because that's what she does too.
Yeah.
And it's that touched a nerve with me, simply because I'm an instructor for the military, and I teach for the love of teaching, and I make sure the students learn what they're supposed to learn for the right reasons. We teach a couple software programs, and I hate the fact that we teach how the program works and what buttons to push, but we never teach them the importance of why are you doing this job. And so that drives me nuts. So I am an instructor who does that. And the other instructors have been like, man, I really like sitting in your classes because not only do I learn from you, but I see how the students react to you.
Yeah.
They're very by the book. They're very militarized. They are.
Yeah.
They just end up there to be brief. They don't engage the students. They don't do all this other stuff. Yeah. And I'm the one who gives them stupid, useless information. Right. I ask them questions to get them involved, and I tell them the whys. Why is it so important doing this? And it's interesting to see people that the way the students react with me simply because of how I adjust myself to fit them. Instead of
I have to agree. That is for me, that's what makes my heart happy is when you see somebody who's also a psychic medium come to my class and see that light bulb go, oh my gosh, I have seen that. Oh my gosh. Oh, and they just have these light bulb moments. And I've learned that I had to break Enlightenment Academy down, the first one, in 3 days, because I give them so much information. By 4 o'clock, they're like done. Like they can't keep their eyes open. They're done. Like their brain is like, they can't handle it. It's great. It's great. That's my favorite is when you see these light bulb moments and after a while, they're like, I can't put anything else in my brain.
Right. It's loaded. See?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's good because that is so, and that's exactly what Yolanda's saying, that I think the word why should be the 11th commandment. It's such a strong word. Yeah. And
I'm a why person too, because you can't tell me what to do, but if you explain why, then I'm going to help you.
Yeah,
I'm going to help you.
I tell people I can teach monkeys how to push the buttons on a computer and run the software, but why is it important that you're doing it, and why is it so beneficial and detrimental one way or the other, whether we do it correctly? So it's because, and the reason I do it that way, I've always taught this way, but the reason I teach it this way is because what I'm teaching now I have never done in my military career. So someone taught it to me, but they never taught me the why. And I kept asking, and no one would come up with the answer. Well, now I've been teaching this for a few years now, and I understand the why, and I think it's so important to teach someone else the why.
That's right.
Because I think it means so much more to them when they learn the why.
And I think that just makes a good teacher. It really does. When you can answer, you can give them the reason why they have to do something, not because it's their job, just because it's part of a team effort.
Yeah. And Nikki says, I'm a high school math teacher. Everyone thinks that I'm really good at math, but I'm not. I was a B math student in high school. I tell people that I'm a teacher who teaches math.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And which is the opposite, because she knows that I am very good at math. That is, I mean, my degree is a very high degree, and it involves not just a shit ton, but a fuck ton of math. And I can't teach her students how to do math the way I do math. They would never understand it. They would just look at me and be like, no, that is not how numbers work, Mr. Springer. I'm like, yes, it's exactly how numbers work in my head.
That's how they work in my head. That's right.
Yeah. But she teaches it how they can understand it.
Right.
Which is very important, because I teach it how I understand it, and it happens very fast. And I would love to teach it to them, but there is no way they would understand me. I mean, they'd still be stuck and going with their fingers going, 2 and 2 is what?
Yeah.
So yes. So it was so what's coming up next for you? What is coming up after the holidays? Because I know you have your academy class. The 5th to the 7th. You have about 3 openings left. For those people who are coming in late, wink, wink, nod, nod. By the way, this is Kelli Miller, and this is her site right here, psychickelly.com. And she runs an academy class that kind of teaches you the basics starting off. And she has the class coming up January 5th to the 7th here in Omaha. And she does do Zoom sessions, but only 5 people at a time, because you get the personal experience as well. Okay.
Got it.
Now I can take a breath. So with that said, what's coming up after that? Are you going to the I just received a invite from the gentleman who runs the metaphysical conference out in Des Moines. Are you going out there?
Possibly. We're still trying to figure out our schedule here, but
I think it's in May. I think it's in May. Because I literally just got he just sent me saying, hey, I'd love to have you as a vendor. So
I think we were there last year. So quite possibly, if we were there last year, which I think we were, we'll probably go again.
Okay. Yeah. So those folks who don't know, I'll probably post that on my site just so people know. if you're out in the Des Moines area, or you're like we're like 2.5 hours away where we're at, 2.5, 3 hours away, we'll travel out there for this one because we haven't been out to the Des Moines one yet. But if you're around the area or you want to come out, travel, it's a weekend thing. It's a metaphysical thing. They do a lot of metaphysical information there, but they also do like the psychics, the mediums, the Reikis, the kind of everything that all in one. They'll have the lotions, the soaps, the jewelry, all the other wonderful stuff out there too. Are you running the Awakenings out there as well? Is that what you're out there? Is the Awakening store?
Yeah, it'd be the Awakening store. Yeah.
So, and if you want to come meet Kelly, and you want some cool stones and jewelry and all that wonderful stuff, she'll be out there too. So come visit Kelly, say hi, say hey, I met you on Tom's show, or I follow you like everyone else in creation does on Facebook, or I mean on YouTube. So like everybody else in creation does on YouTube. So it's funny because there's been a handful of people I've got to tell about you. Like, oh yeah, I already know her.
Yeah.
My bad.
Well, it's funny because even my employees were saying that, they gave a bracelet to somebody and they're like, oh, you got this at Kelly's store? And she was like, well, I work there. What am I, chopped liver? And I was like, sorry.
Yeah. Are you guys still doing the this is for people who are interested because I know this is kind of a big thing. Are you guys still doing the online selling when you guys do your selling of your stones and stuff like that? You're doing stuff like that.
The live crystal sales.
Yeah. So
I don't know what we have. I gotta look at my calendar. I've got so much stuff going on December, January, but I know that Eric in January has an exotic show, but then we also go to the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, which is the United States' biggest gem show. But also the end of next year, Eric and I are planning to go to Germany to that show. That is the world's largest gem show in Germany.
So put my order in, what you're saying. So
what's that?
I said put my order in now is what you're saying.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. But Tucson, this last year in Denver, it wasn't nearly as busy. We thought for sure it would be busier, but it wasn't as busy as what we thought. So we don't know really what to expect in Tucson, but we're going to have 2 live gem shows. Eric and I will from Tucson at the end of January.
Yeah. So, and do you post when your shows are on the Awakening site?
Yeah.
And is your site simply awakenings.com?
Awakeningstore.com.
Awakening Store. Okay, so people write that down, awakeningstore.com.
And we're on Facebook as well.
Yep, and on Facebook as well. And Kelly and Eric post when they're going to be doing their lives for their sales. And Eric does exotic gem sales, which are really cool because it's stuff that you're not used to seeing. And so it's really
I don't
cool.
even know how he pronounces half of them. And I'm like, he's like, oh, well, they're mined in Brazil. And I'm like, where do you come up with it? Like he does all of his research. Like he really knows his rare exotic gems and minerals. He's really good at it.
So if you're looking for like an exotic piece, a hard to find piece, and just really good quality type stuff, then go watch when Kelly and Eric run their shows online.
And he's a gemologist, so that's nice.
And a lot of times you run deals on those on the show. So remember that, folks. So pay attention to that too, because normally she'll post like 20% off or blah 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 or whatever else on the shows or on the lead ups to the shows, so you'll know what to expect when you get to the shows. I actually stopped watching the last couple of ones because I knew Christmas was coming up and I needed money for presents.
I'm just saying,
So I'll start back up and you guys start back up in January. But I had to take a small hiatus simply because I have more stones than I know what to do with, which is a weird statement to say. But I always want more. And I just couldn't. I just had to take a break from spending the money on you guys and with you guys on myself. And then I had to buy stuff for other people. So, but I think we're kind of at a good stopping point. As always, you know that you're one of my faves, so I'm going to ask you to come back in
of course,
in a few months. But I want to thank you for coming on. I love having you on because you just have so much knowledge, and you just share, and you're just straightforward. I love that about you. A lot of my guests are fantastic. They really are. I'm really good about feeling out the guests and getting good guests on my show. But I've seen, and I'm not knocking any other specific show or anything else, but I've watched other shows and they really are canned, or they really are they're not really doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of the guests I have on my show because we're doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
And you're one of my faves I have come on this show, because I even had to apologize. You haven't read the write-up yet, but if you read the write-up, I actually say one of my favorite people, I put in parentheses, sorry to my past guests. Who's coming on my show. So I actually had to apologize to them because I knew you were coming on.
And I totally would have read it, but I was dealing with tech issues. Like I
right?
said, Mercury retrograde, right? Fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Stuart. Appreciate it. He's saying, hey, thank you for the great show. For those people who are unable to find it on Facebook while we watched it live, I hope they go back and actually watch the recording. I think they'll have a lot of fun because there was a lot of information from you on here. So I do appreciate you coming on. Know that I will come reach out to you again to come back on and to ask just random stupid questions as I do. I always tell people, for me, there are no stupid questions. There's only stupid people who ask questions. So, but I'll always randomly throw you out something and say, hey, Kelly, I have a question. And I know you'll have an answer for me. And if not, at least I know where you'll find it at. So,
yep.
But again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it very much. Don't run away right away. I want to come back and talk really quick in the backstage, but I'm going to shut it down, and I will be right back with you. So,
all right.
Say good night, Kelly. Say good night, Kelly.
Bye.
All right, see you in a minute. Okay, everyone, that is the show. So good news, bad news. Good news is we're rolling up on Christmas. Bad news is I am not doing a show for the next 2 weeks because of the holidays. I have started doing a podcast in a way. I've only put one out there so far, but I'm going to start doing little podcast, 10, 15-minute blurbs on a podcast, and I'll post out there where you guys can find that. But that may be something I throw up there during the holidays while I'm not doing the show. I am actually back. January 8th will be my first time back, so we're going to be off for a couple of weeks. But the person I have coming on, her name is Kayla. She's local. She's out here in Nebraska, out west a little bit. So everyone, make sure you stay safe. Enjoy the holidays with your loved ones. Feel free to shout out and say hi, even if we're not doing a show. I appreciate that. I try to do the same thing. I try to shout out and just send text messages to people just to say hi. Let them know I'm thinking of them and let them know we're still alive. So feel free to do that. If you do want to contact me, here's how you do it. Maybe. Right here. Facebook.com/Stuff I Never Learned, Twitch TV at Stuff I Never Learned, YouTube.com at Stuff I Never Learned, and if you want to send me an email, stuffineverlearned@gmail.com. So you can find me anywhere on Stuff I Never Learned. Yes, I made it simple, so it's kind of bulletproof because I had to be able to remember it too. But everyone, have a safe couple of weeks. Thank you again for being such a fantastic audience. You all know I call you my family, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Stay safe. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Contact me if you need anything at all. Other than that, we'll talk soon. Much love.